Hello and welcome to episode 258 of The Crate and Crowbar. It is the 16th of October 2018. My name is Chris Thurston and tonight I am joined by Tom Senior.
Hello.
And Tom Francis.
Hello.
Welcome, gentlemen, to the podcast. I don't know where I was going with that. I didn't really have a segue into a greater introduction.
You sounded like the master from an old Doctor Who episode.
Welcome. Apologies for missing a week last week. We were all busy or away or both. But we're back with mild takes, probably on Assassin's Creed, which we also spoke about last time, but I think we've all played a lot more of it since. The news, or at least news topical subject, maybe to discuss at the top of this pod, maybe has some, it reflects a little bit the conversation we had about, the strengths and weaknesses of varying open world games and why they do, the beginning of last episode. Because it is the thing that pretty much has triggered kind of universal kickback across the industry, which is some comments about the production of Red Dead Redemption 2 that were made in an interview, basically, where the sentiment was presented in a positive sense that Rockstar employees are working 100-hour weeks to make this game as good as it possibly can be. And it's sort of telling to me, I think, that the response has been, as far as I've seen it, even among players as well, pretty universally, we don't want that.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I think the most telling thing here is the reaction on Reddit.
Yeah.
And it was unusually in favour of the actual developers.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that. I actually went there looking to kind of, I was thinking, if anyone is going to come out in defense of Rockstar here, it's probably going to be Reddit. And, cause they kind of worship their games. And also the kind of things they worship about their games are the kinds of things that you get when you have 7 people working ridiculous hours for years.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, they're almost universally just that's ridiculous. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And, some pretty strongly negative comments. I always think that, so the specific quote was, they've released a clarification, haven't they? Saying that, it was one of the houses who said it, and he was referring to a team of 6 senior people who did a sort of crunch on, voice and writing and all the cinematic stuff, basically, going over all of it now that it's all done to make sure it's all up to standard. And he said that's just how they like to do it. And then said no one is ever, junior or senior, is ever forced to work hard at Rockstar, which is a weird way to say it. But none of it really holds much water because, we've had endless reports from Rockstar employees who say they are, at the very least pressured to crunch, or if not just straight up ordered to crunch. And so that doesn't really hold any water. And I wish, the reason it's been a big story and that people are mad about it is because it was presented as a kind of look how hard we work kind of thing.
Yeah.
Presented as a positive. And you really should just be deeply ashamed if you've ended up in a situation where you need to work 100-hour weeks. You really fucked it up at that point. You should be with great humiliation, I must admit, we've been working 100-hour weeks.
Yeah, we were bad at project management.
Yeah.
And so this has happened. Yeah,
even if it's only you should be quite ashamed of that. If it's other people who are having to work to fix your management mistakes, that's even worse.
I think it's specifically, even if, the clarification that specifies, by the time that clarification came along and specified, we were talking about certain kind of people in position of leadership, the story itself had been enough to encourage a lot of even more former Rockstar developers to share their experiences of crunching on GTA 5 and the original Red Dead and stuff. It's just, it is an inadvisable thing for a developer to ever say, because even if you're talking about your solo indie project, it's the response there should probably be it's okay, don't, look after yourself, right? But when you're in a position of responsibility for people and you already have a bad reputation in this regard, it just feels like it's such a bizarre, it feels like one of those sort of statements that comes from a completely different set of values. And I don't want to presume too much in terms of what those values, the house's particular values are when it comes to running their companies, but the track record isn't good. So if they're going to say things like this and not expect it to be controversial, then that tells me it tells me something about the culture of the company, right? Or it heavily implies that culture hasn't really changed. Or else, I feel like, a counterpoint to this is, I'm sure that any company making these really, really huge labor intensive games has, have issues, encounter time management issues or work stuff very hard or, have issues with not paying overtime. Like these stories are all available all the way through the industry. But thinking about it now compared to a couple of years ago, it's notable that most companies are pretty embarrassed to even cop to that, right? Like it's the simple attitude of crunch is something we can brag about that feels very sort of out of touch with the way things have changed. Like pointedly, I think, I don't know the inner workings of every single Ubisoft studio, and God knows there's loads of them, but I know that they would be very embarrassed if one of these stories came out about one of their studios now, for example. Not that says that, the system is working perfectly for them, but I don't know that it isn't. But also, I know that there's at least, an awareness that it is an issue. And I think that's maybe what alarms me here.
And you see awful job security throughout the games industry. And people are typically just laid off right after a project's done. It's almost like contractors roaming around, particular cities in the US or, wherever a studio is based, is going to go from one to the other and picking up contracts here and there. And there just seems, job security in lots of these situations. And in that context, the company doesn't have to tell you to work 100 hours. It can create an environment where everyone there feels as though they have to in order to stay on and not be sidelined and not just be let go. There's been lots of talk about unionizing among, creating proper like developer unions, that kind of thing. And I've seen lots of, chat directors at media as well saying that we should factor this stuff into our reviews and that kind of thing. And I think that, is a bit controversial because there's a point where you have to have like really on point reporting about what the internal culture of a company is before you start mentioning that in reviews and actually holding it against games, because you don't really know what's going on inside a lot of these companies, because a lot of the people involved have signed draconian NDAs that mean they cannot talk about their experiences until that company is dead, basically. So it's a difficult closed system, and there's a definite power imbalance. It feels like, that it weighs against developers in this situation. I
think good investigative work can and should be funded and supported, and it takes the time it takes in order to happen. I think, that was obviously very, important, in terms of what the story about Riot earlier this year, but that stuff takes,
it was years in the making, I think.
So that takes time, and it's not, it's interesting this kind of factor into reviews thing, because you would at that point be asking a writer to do a completely separate, independent kind of investigative piece while also reviewing a video game, which are completely different disciplines.
And also the pressures, like, you don't have any time to review video games. Like, you don't have any time to actually do it. You have to literally just play it from start to finish and, to use an Owen Hill phrase, poop socket, and just get through it and then, try and come up with like, you don't have the time to analyze these issues. You just don't. And, media outlets have their own forms of crunch, basically, and that does not help the industry they cover.
Journalists are now crunching to cover the crunch in the games they're reviewing.
Right,
but, someone will drop an MMO on you like a day before embargo, and then, what is that? But, you're just going to have to play it every single hour of the day. But that's a product of the crunch that's happening in the studio as well. Like, it's just an imbalance of...
and similarly, like, those studios are never more difficult to get access to than when a game is very imminent. Like, because of the high turnover in staff, there are situations where after a big project finishes, staff get let go or whole teams kind of end up in the wilderness. And then you start to see the kind of Glassdoor reviews and the sort of the Whisper network kind of pick up and start telling people what the story was. I mean, it's something that it already has sort of, I've been, prior to this week, was wary about with Red Dead because the first Red Dead was the basis for the Rockstar Spouse series of kind of like disclosures about their practices. And then there was, terrible stuff about the making of LA Noire. And, these are not like the same managers necessarily, but like there's, there are big red flags there. And I was always really worried about, necessarily like getting super excited about Red Dead and playing it loads only to then find out. Cause for example, I loved the first one, and then it really soured that to find out that this thing that I really loved had, caused a lot of pain in its creation and hadn't necessarily rewarded people who put so much time into it. And so it's weird. I was thinking like, it would be great to get some reassurance that this one is okay. You know what I mean? So for this to happen this week is really bad. Like, I think for me, it's the nail in the coffin of me playing the game. Like, I just won't. I don't have the time to really, like, it was always going to be an edge case, and if it was incredible, I'd give it a go. And now I feel it's completely missable, which, I don't know if that.
Definitely, it takes the, allure out of all these kind of like minutiae they've been bragging about, or partly them bragging about, but mostly actually journalists coming back and saying, oh, it's amazing because you like when your gun gets dirty and then you go in the river, it washes the mud off the gun. And it's like when people were pushed to unhealthy limits to make that, suddenly all the frivolous features just seem like fucking stupid instead of charming.
Yeah, like the auto-descending horse testicles or something. Like, I didn't need them, like, in hindsight, right? Like.
Did you see the sit in any chair? Apparently you can sit in any chair.
Why is that?
Exactly.
But there's a lot of games where you can sit in any chair.
It's true of Fallout. It's true of Bethesda's games.
This is, I think, a Red Dead fan site, and, I can't remember the exact phrasing of their tweet, but it was something like, what's the name of the character in it?
Oh, fuck.
If you want to say the character from the other one.
It's not John Marston.
Gruff.
Is it Arthur or...
Arthur sounds right. Let's call him Arthur McShane.
Okay.
Arthur McShane can sit in any chair. Sitting in chairs near NPCs will allow you to gather information and hear dialogue and stuff. And it was just like, the way they were so impressed that you could sit in any chair in the game. It's kind of...
Yeah. I do wonder, like, it was interesting, like, as you said at the top of this, the Reddit response wasn't purely to defend Rockstar and say, people are being oversensitive. Like, it's interesting to me that, that, like, there is at least a kind of, some degree of kickback against these kinds of boasts. I do wonder, I mean, it just seems so unlikely that it will translate into any kind of, meaningful downside for the sales of the game or anything like that. It just seems completely unlikely.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, hopefully it will translate into some good people being reluctant to go for a job at Rockstar.
Yeah, that's true.
A meaningful thing.
That seems like maybe the best outcome, actually, isn't it? It's like if this becomes the public message, then it becomes harder for them to hire, and they have to do something to, change their culture. Hopefully. So from one sausage that we now know how it was made, to a sausage that we don't know how it was made. Should we talk about Assassin's Creed?
The unknown sausage. It was the original subtitle for that game.
So I think on the last episode I said that I wasn't sure which open world game was going to get my money and time, and I just picked Assassin's Creed based on the strength of your testimony, Tom. I just wanted to kick people off stuff.
Yeah.
And take people's shields and whap them with them.
You can do that real good.
You really can.
Tom, what was it that prompted you to...
I was really excited about it anyway, because I liked Origins a lot. And I particularly liked, if the whole pitch was just like Origins, but you couldn't play as a woman this time, I would have been very excited anyway. And then also like the location looks amazing, and then kicking people off stuff. And then you told me it still had the eagle. So yeah, I was very excited, and I was, enjoying it a normal amount, up until I got to a point where I won't spoil any plot specifics, but, there was a choice to sort of, kill or not kill a major character, and I chose kill, and I thought they're probably not going to let me do this, are they? And then it looks like they're not going to let you do it, and then she does it. I'm like, oh fuck yes! And then right after that, another plot character runs at you and like you're in combat, and that takes place on a really high cliff. And I just thought, can I really? Can I seriously? Because I hit the guy a couple of times, and like his health bar went down by like 1%. I'm like, this is a big fight. They're probably not going to let me do this, but I did it. I dodged through him. Like, I stood on the precipice intentionally to lure him towards me, dodged through him, turned around, kicked him off it, and he's just gone. Like, yes, I fucking love this game. Thank you.
It is the Yeah, I love it too, and it's fucking busted as hell. Like, I can't really get around, like, and I found it, like, I think it'd be very easy to pick holes in for that reason. But like, my first time I took on a mercenary, I was like, I'm gonna take a mercenary on that's like one level higher than me. And it's probably not good that you can't really reasonably fight them if they're one level higher than you, because they just don't take any damage. But by repeatedly luring that man with his bad AI up to the top of this hill and kicking him in the sea and waiting him to swim back to shore while peppering him with arrows as he runs like the 3 miles back to me, then he comes back up the hill and I kick him into the sea again. Like, I was having a great time. And it's a combination of like dodgy AI, maybe some questionable top level design decisions, like all of this stuff that made that happen. But I found myself thoroughly entertained, and maybe that, you know, is a testament to the fact that all we needed to do is give you the ability to shove.
Yeah.
And it's something.
It's actually, yeah, it's funny. The kick almost feels like the opposite of a lot of the things Origins added, which is this idea of like levels, and if this guy's high level than you, just kind of do no fucking damage. And that was like all about shutting you down and saying like, if we didn't intend for you to do this, you just can't fucking do it. And then the kick is like, actually, if there's a sure enough drop, you can do it.
Yeah, those Greeks loved building their temples up on high cliffs.
That's the thing, yeah. Like in Egypt, what, you're going to kick him into some sand or something? Like,
and pyramids are famously sloped, so.
Exactly. They just roll casually all the way down.
Actually, this is fine.
It's like when you get into naval combat and you board another ship.
Oh, just kick them all. Yeah.
And it is like, you know, there's no huge spoilers, but there's a mission where you it's a side mission. You go on board a friendly ship to like hand in the quest, and there's a chance that things go wrong. And, my own ship was parked nearby, and I had swum across to this friendly ship and climbed on board and was talking to somebody, and then it turned into a huge fight on this other ship, and none of my crew helped at all. Yeah. Like, they're all stood there on the deck of my ship, all like a couple of dozen people that I've kicked and then recruited, like, standing on the deck of the ship, watching me systematically boot like a whole ship's crew into the ocean, like one after the other.
And there are omnipresent sharks in those oceans as well. Yeah. They will just like materialize around any victims that are in the water. And you'll see them just horrendously swallowing them up.
And I think, sorry,
go on. No, go on.
During every boarding action, anytime anyone gets a hit on me, I mentally think the exact same thing, which is, do you want to get kicked into the sea? Because that's how you get kicked into the sea.
Like, especially because like I really like a lot of the weapon types. So I'm playing sort of the warrior archetype, where you do a lot more just sort of like some stealth, but like mostly fighting. And like, I really like the staff, like for these big sort of sweeping attacks that sort of push people backwards, because you can kind of just like thin up the hurt, keep people at arm's length, and then like single out someone to kick in the sea. And it's just, that's the game. Like, it's set, 300 years or whatever before the foundation of the Assassin's Order, and before they discovered like hidden blades and leaping off stuff. They did know how to jump into a hay bale. But they also had this technique that maybe the subsequent assassins lost, which was just kick people in the sea. Like,
yeah, forgotten knowledge. That was, yeah. Future assassins are not able to do that.
Yeah. It's such a, like, it shouldn't be as good as it is, the kick, for as long as it is, because it is just like, it is like a level 1 skill that is basically a joke. It's like, you remember 300, right? Here's the kick from 300. And yet it's game defining. Like, I have sort of like picked up other abilities, but mostly just sunk points into anything that speeds up the time around the kick.
Oh, right. Can you speed up like the cooldown?
No, but you can get things like the slightly more advanced assassinate, where you hold down the button, which means you can like, actually kill some people. So like, what I mean is that you're not speeding up the kick itself, but you're making every kick worth more because the rest of your abilities are lethal. So it's like, I can take out a couple of people with my bow or with an actual assassinate, but then that will leave the one, gold elite enemy, whom I shall kick in the sea.
Do you know if, I've only got it at level 1 and I haven't upgraded it because it says the upgrade just increases damage, and I don't actually use it for damage. I'm only ever interested in kicking people into the sea.
They seem to go a bit further.
Do they go? Okay.
And so that might be a bit
I've failed a few times. Like, I've been on a tall tower and I've kicked someone and they've kind of bumped into the edge. Like, the edge is there's no barrier there. They just sort of hit the drop as if it's a wall, which is exactly what the skill is about, not doing. And so I didn't know if I'd like to be able to kick them a bit harder.
I can't say for sure that you do kick them further, but I did, earlier kick a guy like all the way across the boat and off the other side of the boat from the one I was trying to. I don't think I could have done that previously. In fact, earlier I kicked a guy so hard I kicked him onto my boat.
No, this works for you now.
And like, no, the game doesn't really, well, the game has a way of handling it, but basically your boat, while you're boarding, is a damage zone for enemies from the other ship. So,
right.
Because I don't think it can fully simulate like a fight on both ships at the same time.
Right.
So they just take damage, like ambient damage from like wrong boat, wrong boat, and then they die. Like,
I don't like it here.
like Herodotus literally just stares them to death.
I'm actually tackling with a lot of these systems right now because I have a cultist, which we'll talk about in a bit, who is he's the last one in this little branch. I killed like 4 or 5, and I'm like level 25, and they were sort of level 20-ish. And this guy's level 49. And it feels like, because he's right there in the branch with all these low-level people, it seems like I should be able to complete this somehow. And so I was just thinking like, you know, normally I would take that. Yeah, I tracked him down. I found him. And the clue for him is in the level 49 area. And that was quite a fun adventure of like, you know, dare I go into this? I just got to go in a cave and like find a thing. And that was fine. And then I found him. And like I say, like I'm getting mixed signals from the game because his level is telling me you cannot touch this guy. But then the fact that he's sort of presented to me in this way, like it's the last of the set. You've done the others. Why not give this a go again? So I found him. And he's on the coast. And so I brought my entire boat and I just thought, well, fuck it. I can't take him in a fight. Can I just shoot him with all of my archers? Yeah. And so I've been bombarding this coast for like 20 minutes and it has had no effect on him. It feels like there's just a straight up rule of like ship weapons don't hurt normal people. They can only hurt boats,
right,
I think.
Yeah.
Certainly people on land. Cause I shot at him for a long time and it's hard to see because you can only get so close to this coast. Like they don't let you go into the shallows, obviously. So I was like, I'd fire a few volleys, then I'd go into the eagle mode and fly over and just check on him and see like, is he where I think he is? Yeah, he's where I think he is. Go back and fire some like fire arrows and some javelins and stuff. And no effect at all. And then I crept up onto the coast. I'd be really interested to know, you can certainly kick people who are like a couple of levels higher than you, but I don't know if I can kick this guy. I haven't got the chance yet because he's surrounded by guards who are also level 49. But I did it. The test I did was I've also got a rocket launcher arrow. It's like one of the higher level bow things is uses 3 adrenaline slots, but it just explodes on impact and has a lot of knockback. And I've been using that for if I can't get behind someone to kick them off something, I shoot an arrow behind them and knock them off something. Nice. That's great. And I tried one of those at his feet and he did not budge at all. He just got up. He was sitting down at the time and he just stood up. I don't like that, but I was not in any way affected by it. So I'm worried I might not be able to kick this guy. Even if I can, I can't really see a way to do it without just getting slaughtered by all his friends because I literally can't kill any of these people except by potentially kicking them into the sea.
My mind just went to like, the level's telling me no, but the cliff top's telling me yes. Oh boy, what a game. Like, it's like, I've been hanging on a pirate island where at any given time, someone's fighting a big pig. Like, it's just 100% extremely angry pigs 100% of the time. Like, I was walking through a town and a bunch of chickens started attacking me. And so I killed the chickens. And then I got a bounty on my head for killing chickens. And then like...
How much was the bounty?
It was like half a bar. And then like, but I already had some bounty. So then a mercenary shows up whose name is like Tamon the Dickhead or something. And he like comes riding on a horse and I had to kill him. And it's like
the Chicken Avenger.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and it's dumb because, you know, obviously like, you know, it's Ubisoft Animal stuff versus kind of open world jank and all these kinds of bizarre, behaviors. And yet I find it kind of relentlessly entertaining, maybe because it's so wonky sometimes. Like, and I think it's laudable that the game actually lets you sort of, it's got a much more persistent world state than previous Assassin's Creed games, I think. And indeed a lot of previous, Ubisoft open world games, because like, you know, most like even things like collectible mission objectives, like, you know, special things you got to find in ruins and stuff for a particular quest are there even before you have the quest, which allows you to like suddenly have completed quests you don't realize that you've completed, which is really cool apart from the fact that they didn't go as far as to change the dialogue. Like if someone says like, find me the 18 pieces of lost silver and you've got them, then you go like, oh, that sounds boring. Where are they? And you're like, oh, why would I do
in my
this?
pocket.
A psych.
Maybe you should just try and drive up the price,
Yeah,
Candy
exactly.
mercenary. Oh, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't know. It could take me hours.
Yeah.
I do occasionally feel a weird sort of emotional, sort of almost sense of awe, sometimes going around the world of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, specifically, reaching Athens and seeing the Acropolis and seeing like their version of what that might have looked like in its kind of prime and, before history played out. And, I find that quite emotional because I feel like it connects me to people thousands of years ago still just making amazing things.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, they gloss over a lot of the slavery and a lot of the stuff that was involved in actually creating these things, but simply seeing them, like, in a version of their former glory I just find that really emotional.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah.
Beautiful, yeah.
There's kind of an interesting cultist quest that touches on the slavery thing. Should we talk about the cultists?
Yeah, we should talk about the cultists.
I think we should. I mean, maybe it's a spoiler, so give a little spoiler warning.
Yeah, I don't think it's like, the system itself is not a spoiler. Like, there are certainly things surrounding the plot. We can probably talk about the system without talking about the plot, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
If you're...
Beyond the fact that it involves a cult, I don't think there's really much to say about the plot side of it.
Yeah, I just found the mechanical system that opened up was like such a surprise when it happened that maybe people won't want to preserve it, but yeah. Maybe
Sure. Yeah.
People have probably skipped it already, but based on that, what I've just said. So let's talk about it. It's good.
Yeah, so you after a certain point in the main story, you come into contact with a cult who are all masked and robed, and that introduces a menu in the interface of just literally 42 people to track down and kill. And they are, initially the sort of default state for them is you don't know anything about them. And then you get, in some cases you get a clue. If you find some evidence that points you towards them, you get a clue that, you get a clue to the clue. So in the interface, it will tell you, a clue to this cultist is lost in a cove on the Scavenger Coast. And that was the level 49 one that I was talking about. Scavenger Coast is level 49 area. And I just went around it on my ship looking for a cove, and found something that looked like a cove, and it turned out to be the wrong cove. This has happened 100% of the time, by the way, with these games. Like, it's a fort in Locris. Oh, I'm in Locris. Here's a fort. It's this one. It's this. No, it's not this one. There must be another fort in Locris. Oh, there's a fort. It's definitely this one. It's definitely this one. No, it's not this one. Or there's a mine in this area. It's definitely this mine. No, it's not that mine. It's a different mine. But anyway, once you track down the clue will let you unveil them, and that literally puts them on the map. You just have a live tracking of wherever they are at all times from then on, and you can just go and kill them. It's not like a special scripted thing where you can't kill them at certain times, or you have to enter into a scripted scene. Actually, there's one guy I've found now where after you get him to 0 health, and he goes into that kind of like plot state where he's on his knees and like you can't finish him off, and I had done it in quite a sloppy way, so his bodyguard was attacking me at the time, so I just had to run off and like rethink and then come back late. Actually, I ran off, and then the bodyguard chased me, and I just kind of circled round and went back to the guy and like finished him off while his bodyguard was still looking for me. But other than him, like the rest of them have just been like, this is just a guy with like, they might be a level above you or something, but they only have so many hit points, and if you can find a way to take them out, then you can do it. And that's really cool. That's what I want from this game, really. Like, I wish the whole game was like that. And actually, my only complaint about it is that, I've got to the point now where almost all of those are locked off from me now. Like, I've either got to progress further than the main quest, or they're just 20 levels above me, or there's some other reason I just can't do it yet. But when he first unlocked that system, I had 12 I could hunt down, and that was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And there's something really, perfect about, particularly for an open world game, because open world games, they've mastered scale a long time ago. Like, so the hugeness and the richness of these worlds has been impressive for years now, but there hasn't, the thing we always end up saying about them is like, there isn't enough to do in it, and I think really it's just a case of like finding the right kinds of things to do in the world, and, making them suit the game. And this is the perfect thing for an Assassin's game, is just to have like 42 people out there in this world, and they're just there right now. In fact, a couple of times I've ended up killing a cultist without knowing they're cultists until I do it. But when you select one, like you uncover the clue for this cultist, and you say, yes, I want to track this one, and you look on your HUD and it says they're 4,000 meters that way. And you look out over the sea and over like 3 other islands, and it's like they're all the way across the other side of the fucking world, and I'm gonna get them. I'm just gonna track them down no matter how long it takes.
right before you guys came over, I was traveling from one place to the other in the boat, and I realized, I'm going past like this particular sort of cape, and on top of this sort of cliff top is a temple. And in that temple, there's a guy marked there, and he's level 20 and I'm level 20. I'll just literally like stop the boat, climb up the cliff, and then like, I always like to think of things from the perspective of the crew, but then like 5 minutes later, this guy comes sailing off the cliff, like booted off, and it's like, splash. And then it's like, hooray! And then off I go, like, cause it's sort of, something I really like about it as well from a sort of stuff to do sense is, these systems, because there's also the mercenary system. Like the game has two separate kind of, there are these characters in the open world for you to kill. There's also the mercenaries that will also come hunt you down if you get a bounty by killing chickens. But like those systems and the side quests generally sit completely to the side of like the kind of persistent war system, which allows you to flip territory for one side or the other. And one thing I quite like about it is it doesn't really like punish you at all for like, changing which side you're fighting for constantly. Like you're a mercenary and like, there's something I quite like about how it sounds weird, but like, I've been enjoying it partly because I think the fiction and the theme really establishes that like in this particular version of sort of the world, it's kind of okay to just kill loads of people all the time. Like the Odyssey is full of like, and then I killed this building full of people. Why? Because it was that's the story. And one thing I quite like about it is, it's obviously it's quasi-historical rather than purely kind of, mythological, but that's something I kind of like to get through on its own. But I feel like surprisingly kind of liberated in this world being a sort of mass murdering pirate lady, which is not to say that you don't kill those people in other Assassin's Creed games, but it felt like other Assassin's Creed games kind of had to prohibit you from just like, killing whoever. Like, whereas there's something about the kind of Greek Odyssey format which says that, like, it's dudes with swords and shields on an island. You're allowed to kill them because that's the kind of story this is. And I really like that about it. Like, I haven't really felt that anything I've done has been massively out of character, really. Because it's just it's all free roaming sort of, morally neutral pirate adventure all the time.
Yeah, there's definitely notes of, Assassin's Creed 4, like throughout, and not just because they've got like C sections, but because like the guy you play in Assassin's Creed 4 again doesn't have a skin in the game really. Like he's there just to profit and survive. And there's more going on with Odyssey's protagonists, whether you choose Cassandra or Alexios. But they are like, I really like the character you play as because they are totally free. They're not tied down to any group. They're not member of the Assassins. They're not member of the Templars.
Yeah, because the Assassins don't exist yet.
Yeah, so, and there's some family issues, but they Spartan origin. But fuck it, fight for the Athenians if that's going to make you some money and get you a nice helmet.
I specifically fight for the Athenians because I have a grudge against the Spartans because of my backstory. I feel like they've done me wrong.
See, I've sort of turned around because I was always fighting for the Spartans until I went to Athens. And now I'm like,
this is the place you guys like. Okay, I'm on board.
Oh wow, this is like maybe more of this throughout the world. So I'm just like pure Athens now.
I sort of try and avoid because I haven't, I think it's maybe not a failure, but like I try not to I haven't really dug into the war stuff since it made me, at all. Like, if it's why not steal the war chest? I'll do it for my own gold, but I don't really care about destabilizing, because basically, to clarify how that system works, this is another system. Every region has its stability meter. It's owned by one faction, and a little thing will pop up to tell you how stable it is. And among the things that stability affects is how well secured the leader of that province is. And anything you do that upsets the ruling power destabilizes it. And this function, and when you get stability all the way to the bottom, you can trigger a big battle that allows you to go fight on either side to either protect the place or get better rewards by flipping it.
Yeah, it's weird. You can instigate the whole thing, assassinate the leader, weaken them by taking out all their supplies, then assassinate the leader, then trigger the battle and say, actually, I'm going to fight for them. Yeah. I'm on their side. I was just playing.
Yeah, JK. But the best thing about this is, when a civilization is, or a territory is fully secured, the leader and killing the leader of the general of the army in that particular environment is another form of assassination mission that massively destabilizes the region. And often it'll be the last thing you do in order to kind of trigger that battle. When a region is fortified, the leader lives in a fortress surrounded by decent guards at all times. when you get it to its lowest, they make the leader go live in a tent.
Yeah.
And wear just like a robe in a tent by themselves.
I'm so alone.
Yeah. And it's like, but the best thing about it is they don't fire the leader. Like, and it'll be something like, this is like, you know, Euchemenides, master of the hippocampus. But if we make him, he's still the general of the Athenian army, but he has to live in this tent now because of other unrelated shames that we have.
Like, our security protocols don't make a lot of sense, but when they're at level 1, the leader has to go in the tent.
Yeah, exactly.
There's also a massive, heavily guarded facility called just the leader's house.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's
Leader house.
exiled from his own leader house
It's
is
across
a
the street
beautiful
in the tent. It's like we made Grandad live in the
Don't
woods.
even live in a leader house.
Exactly. Leader house. And I remember the first time, you know, there's, on the critical path when it teaches you the system, there's one instance where you kind of have to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
A whole shebang. And I remember the first, like, I'd fully shamed Grandad into having to go live in a tent in the woods. And I was still expecting like assassination time. And then I got there and he was just sat cross-legged in the rain, like on his own. And then a wolf came along and started to chase him. So he was being, so my whole plan of like, I'm going to sneak up on him and like, you know, do the kind of like Resquieta in Pache kind of assassination thing. Not that didn't happen. I ended up chasing him through the woods and then he ran into this little town and then the guards of the town came along and killed the wolf. And then he turned around to like sort of auto walk back to his tent. And as he was doing that, cause he was not aggroing to me at all, I just pressed triangle and like immediately like impaled him on the spear of Leonidas. And it was like this full on moment of like, it was like, oh, chased by a dog, getting fired. So, like, and that was the end of Eumenides, master of the hippocampus. Like, it's so good. Like,
I've got to start whittling these things down more because I've actually been, it's very nicely dynamic, that system, where like when they're fully fortified, it's not that you can't kill them, it's just harder. And so I quite like the assassination challenge. So I'm like, I don't need to burn all those supplies. I'm just going to go right for them.
Yeah,
like
nice.
if they're 2 levels above me, maybe I won't go for it. But if they're 1 level above me, I know I can take them.
And if they're standing on a cliff.
Yeah. And actually, so my whole game, I have not gone the warrior path, and my whole game has just been, I've gone pure assassin. It'll probably surprise no one to learn. And so every single bit of kit I have is just whatever boosts assassin damage the most, and every skill I get is just, I get all the assassin related skills, especially anything to do with how much damage I do from stealth, because all I care about is what is the, I just want to maximize the number of people I can take out in 1 hit from stealth. Because if you take them out in 1 hit, it's clean and you get away with it. And if it's not, then they fight back and that makes noise and then the whole thing is kind of scotched. And so because I'm spec'd for that, I can take out sort of even like bosses of a level higher than me. And I think I can probably do like 2 levels higher than me mostly. But if they have like a boss if a boss has 2 borders, like, is it like if they have 1 border, okay. If they have 2 borders, they're some kind of fucking god. They're like insanely tough. But actually, it's been quite fun I don't really like the equipment system, but, the skills, are better than I thought at first for kind of countering that. You know, the fact that you can't, this is my big complaint about Origins, which I've said before on the pod, which is, you know, when you're around people who are high level than you, the stealth attacks just don't work. And you just like, you stab them, but it doesn't hurt that much. And then they just fight you and there's no stealthy approach to it. And you might still be able to win, but not through, any kind of stylish means or, you know, the way I want to do it. And in this, that's still true for like someone who's 5 levels higher than you, but with like 1 to 2 levels higher than you, if you're spec'd for it, there is a way to do it. And it's a question of like stacking all these different things that they give you to deal with this. So like, a normal assassination, and then you get the skill that upgrades how much damage that does, just like 30% extra to all assassination attacks, then upgrade that another time, so it's 50% extra, then get all the kit that boosts the assassination damage, then get the critical assassination, which is double assassination damage, but it takes longer and it consumes adrenaline, so you've got to build adrenaline with other things. And then I've now got like the skill that was just, sounds like it was written for me called Stealth Master. It's so nearly Master of Stealth, but it's sadly not. And that is like, it's just like all your assassination shit is now way better and, you're quieter and, you can hide better. And at night, they do more damage as well.
Right.
So now every single assassination, I sit there and I just wait till nightfall and then I go in, cause I can
There's a button
again
for that.
boost my,
So,
I don't literally wait for nightfall. I press the button to wait for nightfall. In fact, I'm not sure. the time of day, if it changes at all, it changes very slowly.
It does
I've only
change,
ever seen it
actually.
change.
It does change, yeah.
If I wait for the boat, it's always dusk, because it's always day otherwise.
Yeah, so
Unless
there's
I wait
only-
for night, and then...
It became a problem for me when I was fighting, the monster boss boar, that you encounter.
Yeah, it's a big
that
ball.
thing is so, because I'm spec for assassin damage, it was
That's
just impossible
hardcore.
for me
Yeah,
until I...
So I actually made reference to this boar, on the last podcast. This is the one that summons mini boars because it's like a multi-phase boss fight, and it's
Multi-phase boars fight.
and I made the mistake of tackling this boar at dusk, and as the fight progressed, so I'd chip it down to like 75%, and loads of mini boars would come out, and it just get darker and darker and darker, and you can't pull a torch out and fight because you need your weapons
Patience
out.
or anything, yeah.
And so it started to become like really hard to see the boars. I literally had to go off and do a different quest just to kind of like reset it. And then picked my time of day, so I fought the boar at dawn, because boars are surprisingly stealthy, it turns out. Like, the coloration and
Where did the giant boar go?
Well, I think the game has some logic for like spawning animals out of sight, so you don't ever see them pop in front of you.
yeah, like your horse.
Yeah, your horse as well. So like, I noticed with that boss fight, like I would know, because it does a particular animation when it's summoning more boars, and you kind of know the boars will always come from like an angle you're not looking at, which gives you a sense of like which way to dodge. But like they always come in like an initial stampede. Like the horse is great because if you like rotate, if you spin the camera as you whistle for the horse, it will quite often come from somewhere really weird. Like you could, like I was standing in the middle of Athens and like span the camera around, whistled, and like the horse just sort of like burst out of like the front door of someone's house and like kicked someone over. It's like,
I always feel really bad because I think, oh, I need the horse for this journey, so I whistle for the horse, and then I realize, actually, I'm on top of a really steep cliff, I should jump down here first. So I jump after I've whistled, and the horse has just shown up, so he can't magic teleport anymore. Like, he's just like, oh, I'm physically here now, so, oh, fucking hell, I've got to path all the way down there, like, I gotta take the long route.
it's so good. Yeah, there's a lot of good, like if you get off your horse, it just sometimes just spins in the spot, like not in a, like T-pose animation kind of way, just it kind of rotates over a bit, but it finds its place. And if anyone's walking past, it just like full on knocks them over
Yeah.
with its powerful ass.
I just kick like 94 people in the face every day playing this game just to galloping through a city.
Yeah.
Even on autopilot, like the horse is just doing his own thing, but everyone just stands in the fucking road and just get kicked in the fucking face again and again.
Oh man. Yeah, I have to say I really like I like the fact that it struck me playing it that I can't think of very many other games that are set in ancient Greece that aren't explicitly mythology themed. Like obviously being Assassin's Creed, this has some sci-fi elements and some mythological elements and references to the myths and stuff, and you can discover stuff. But actually like that gives it like, and there's plenty of reasons to, lament some aspects of Assassin's Creed's longer running metafiction and stuff. But actually I think it works quite well in this context because it's kind of, it's like exactly the amount of myth I want in my, ignoring the fact it's an Assassin's Creed game. The sort of sci-fi elements give it exactly the amount of myth I want to find in an ancient Greece game. Like, if this is like, the comparison is something like God of War or Titan Quest, where fighting a Cyclops or a Minotaur or something is tutorial level stuff.
Yeah.
Like you expect to be, and I've kind of fought enough harpies in games, you know what I mean? Like in terms of what the kind of classic ancient Greek tropes. And so the fact that it is quasi-historical and like, but has these little sprinklings of myth around the kind of fringe of the map.
Yeah,
it's like
sure.
an amount of like, not necessarily like magic realist, but like sort of, it's an element of like faintly mythological while still feeling quite grounded that I didn't know I wanted till I played it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I really dig that. Have you guys seen the Snake Temple?
Yes.
Is it up from Delphi?
Possibly. I mean, you can't miss it based on what's there. Like,
I've been in a temple that's full of snakes. But
No, not that one.
it's not that one.
Okay.
I say I won't spoil it then. But there are just like there are certain sites and things that you find that are just explicitly not of this earth. And I really like that that's scattered, peppered throughout the world, and it sort of takes you out of the historical aspects of it. 'Cause it's not like if you start to like examine this as a historically accurate piece of fiction, you start to get into loads of trouble.
Yeah.
How Greek society is structured, and particularly,
Everyone you've heard of from ancient Greece is here in this party.
Yeah. Have you done the party?
yeah.
Where
yeah,
you're
I've done
just
the
like
party.
hanging with,
Yeah.
like, fucking Euripides is there.
Yeah.
And you can kind of own him on behalf of Sophocles. Like, it's so good.
I knew from the quest text that I was going to meet Socrates.
Yeah.
Like even ahead of time. And of course you're going to meet him, because like it's Assassin's Creed, it's just, a who's who of, this vague sort of
You always,
era.
Assassin's Creed is always a story about someone who was like best mates with everyone from history.
Yeah.
But like, they all forgot about.
Which is fantastic. That part
I'm a
nice.
fan of the Socratic method in philosophical context, having studied at university. Now that I meet the guy, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, Socrates, shut up!
I think that, I think the writing is extremely hit and miss. Like, it's absolutely all over the place. But I quite like that, like, everyone's contemporary response to Socrates is like, oh, for fuck's sake, Socrates. Where it's like, did I say anything at all? Or did you say something?
Yes.
I didn't say anything. I was simply trying to make you think. Anyway, Socrates out. Anyway,
Is a horse good or is a horse bad? And can a horse be bad and good, or is there a good horse and a bad horse?
As your horse spins around, kicking people in the head. Oh, it's good. Yeah, that whole sequence is like, just kind of bizarre from a sort of like classics point of view, because it's like, I don't know how they decided to characterize like Euripides, for example, or Aristophanes, like, but they sort of committed to a direction. Like they were definitely uninterested in it being like, I will explain who I am in a sort of edutainment kind of way. That they basically, it's a drinking game basically, and you get lasered and sing a terrible song.
Yeah. Excellent mission.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the strangest sort of like, the strangest moments of like, I'm just hanging out with Pericles and he's telling me about his problems, and Herodotus lives on my boat.
Yeah. Someone's got to tell the story.
Yeah.
Or like,
He kind of forgets this one, I seem to remember.
yeah, dude. Like, or the bit where like, someone's like, oh, well, one of the people who could help you is this. He's like a doctor. I don't have a word for this yet. What is he? He's like a man who helped people feel better.
If you're going to meet a doctor, it's going to be
and he's taken this
literal
like oath that means he won't hurt people. Well, that's a wacky thing to do.
I've not met Hippocrates yet.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my
I've got a mission to
quests.
go to him, but I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I think we're all at the same point in the game.
Yeah,
actually.
I think we are, yeah,
like, cause I just finished one of those 3 branches.
Yeah.
One of which is like, just go fucking meet Hippocrates and find out. Like,
Oh, that's so good.
yeah.
That's one of the best things about Assassin's Creed. And it's weird how the series has kind of forgotten that a little bit over the years. Like,
Yeah.
occasionally it nails it. Like, of course you meet Da Vinci and,
Yeah, I still remember, Ezio inventing the latte.
yeah, like because actually I think this is the most I've liked an Assassin's Creed protagonist since Ezio as well. Cassandra's. Are we all playing as Cassandra?
I mean, yeah.
I like her more than Ezio, actually.
Yeah. I think I don't know if I do. I think the fact that they could stage the situations Ezio gets into means that, like, I think maybe you have a bit more fun with Ezio. Like, I'm very fond of, also you see Ezio's journey all the way through. Like, I really like Assassin's Creed Revelations Ezio, where he's an old man and doesn't give a shit anymore. And like, that's an arc I would like to see. Whereas Cassandra's fun though. Like, there's a lot of really good delivery on those lines for her. And it's really nice. And this is something they did well with, I've traditionally done reasonably well with Assassin's Creed. It's nice that it's, as far as I'm aware, a mostly Greek cast as well. And there's something nice about hearing proper pronunciations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned that every Greek name I know should have had the second to last syllable stressed really strongly.
Yeah.
So it's Herodotus and Socrates and...
Yeah, exactly. It's just, that's what makes it pleasant to listen to as well. Like, even if sometimes the writing is a bit all over the place, but like, I don't think it's any worse than other RPGs when it's being duff. It's just occasionally.
I think that, at least for me, there are moments that stand out.
Yeah.
That's all I really, expect or hope for. Is that there's a bit, I don't want to spoil stuff, but, she's quite reckless and quite, impulsive and does just like, sometimes incredibly rude stuff.
Yeah.
So she shoves a quest object up a goat's arse.
That's such a good moment.
A character. And that is absolutely fantastic. And they had to animate that goat's awkward exit, strut from after that scene. And, so just moments like that show more imagination than, most RPGs that you're probably going to
I like that, the protagonists are very specific characters as well. Like when I first saw it, I wasn't sure why I was picking a character and not just male or female lead, right?
Right.
But they feel quite specific, and not just in the fact that obviously they have a role to play in the story, but that like Cassandra particularly like feels like a very specific person, and she's like because I think it's I think. Actually, Alexius's design is quite sort of generic leading man kind of thing, but I think she is genuinely like not like she is very much herself and doesn't fit the mold of a lot of like female protagonists in games in terms of how they're presented physically or in terms of their attitude. Like, she's
just being a mercenary is quite unusual.
She's a mercenary. She's really tall. Like you are like, and then occasionally you meet people who are much taller than you, but it's really rare because some people are just massive. But like the fact that she's really physically imposing, and that's not like just an aesthetic thing. Characters refer to the fact that she's physically imposing. The fact that she's really built, like she's very, very muscular. The fact that the mesh for the armor doesn't change male to female. So, when you're wearing a breastplate or something, it's not suddenly boob armor, etc. Like all of those little details, I think really help. And that is applied to other female characters in the game as well, but that I think really helps it.
I'm really liking all the casual relationships.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Coming from sort of, the only games I've played really where I've got into relationships have been BioWare games where it's like a fucking long haul. It's going to be like 25 hours of slow burn before anything, before you get anywhere. And then ancient Greece, you're just like, hey, you're hot. Like, do you want to fuck? And they're like, yeah, but do this mission first. All right.
Yeah, like, I find myself clicking, like, the heart option every time it appears because it's almost more fun than the other. Like,
I do wish, that's one case where I especially wish I could see the exact wording, what she's going to say, because sometimes I click the heart option and I'm like, whoa, that is not how I was going to go at that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a good one during the party. I don't know if you did the... that's just like...
That's really fun.
Yeah.
Because, like, those characters come back later for, like, side quests and stuff, and they refer to what's happened previously.
Did you join in?
I did.
Yeah. I was like, it's fucking ancient Greece, everybody. Diving straight in here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's a symposium, like, like...
it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah. I really like that about it a lot. So, like, I think there are, like, again, I keep feeling like, oh man, like on paper, this system I'm currently encountering is completely broken. Like, it's real weird so many times, but I've really consistently been enjoying it. I played like 20 hours of it since last week, 25 hours of it, and, really genuinely enjoying.
I love the way it creates environmental interest and difference between its zones, and it almost does it using seasons in a way that, wouldn't physically happen. So you go to a place that's autumnal, even though the whole world state is obviously supposed to be in the same season. And then you'll go to islands that are just like pure white sands and just a totally different kind of feel, even though without doing the sort of lava thing, ice thing.
Lava land. Yeah.
They're able to create, so much difference and so much.
Actually, I have found a lava land. Have you been to Mykonos yet?
No, I haven't.
I'm not sure I have actually.
It's real good. It's just a beautiful place. And also I've been wanting to go there because every time I look at the map, I see it and I get the Fleet Foxes song stuck in my head all over again. I've just been singing that song for like 2 weeks straight, non-stop. And the place itself was gorgeous. We should mention the level boost thing, because I bought it. So last week 2 weeks ago we talked about
come back to it,
the fact that you can buy a permanent 50% boost to how fast you gain XP, and I did buy that. You didn't?
I did not.
Did you, Tom?
I did, yes. Yeah.
I'm level 25 at the moment. I don't know how many hours I played though, so I can't really do a fair comparison. But it's definitely felt breezy for me, the leveling up. When I've just leveled up and I've spent a new ability point, I know it's not going to be long before I have another one. Like if I'll often just save one because I, might want to, plan next time I level up. I know it's not going to be very long until that happens. And that's been kind of nice it's definitely clear that a lot of, as I think you, said last time, the story stuff kind of levels up with you. So if you get ahead of it, it just matches your level pretty much or like doesn't fall too far behind. Like that boar. It was level 13 when I first fought it, and I failed. And I thought, I'll come back when I'm higher level. And I came back at level 25, and it was 21. So it levels up like some
extent of
I don't
range.
think actually, entire zones do this, I think, as well in the game. Like, I've noticed entire zones just ticking up to like level 17 when I'm like level 19 and stuff like that.
It's visible on the map. You can see what the range is for a given zone and where it will go as far as, I think.
There's actually, I wonder how it'll work out with the spear. Because without spoiling any plot stuff, you're sort of capped in certain skills until you upgrade your spear. And how you do that is related to the cultist thing. And so...
That's level tied, yeah.
Yeah, that, I don't know if that's going to be any faster for me with the XP boost. I suppose I'll level up faster and therefore I can take on the cultists sooner.
Yeah, that'd be the thing. Like, so I'm level 20. It sounds like we're all about the same point in the game, and I'm level 20 and I've not found the leveling onerous at all.
Right.
Like, I really have not felt the pressure to buy the thing at all. Like, I tend to be a bit of a kind of explore everywhere, do everything player anyway. So, you know, because I like playing that way. I like sort of, I'll go this direction and do everything there is to do in this direction, and then maybe I'll get onto the main plot when I fancy it, kind of thing. So maybe it's simply dispositionally I'm not the kind of person who would feel the pressure, but I've never been underleveled for something the game has asked me to do. And I appreciate that maybe if I'd bought the booster, there would be cultists I could kill, but like there are plenty I can kill that I haven't yet, so I haven't really felt it in that regard either. So
I actually did do something I was underleveled for because, I got a quest to go to Mykonos and I wanted to go there for my own reasons. And it was like 2 levels above me. And I thought, I'll just go there anyway and just see what it's like. And I can come back if it's too hard. And actually it was really good because it was a story about rebels and they're fighting, the Athenian oppressors. And they are the scrappy underdogs, and I was too. And so I got, like, they gave me a mission to, like, go burn the supplies, which is a thing I've done a million times, and it's been really easy. But this time, like, every single guard can totally fuck me up, and I can't really take anyone out. I could take out the basic guards, but not any of the bosses. And, it was genuinely really difficult. I ended up having to just kind of, like, I blew it, like, they spotted me, and I couldn't take them on in combat, so I had to just kind of, like, run away, but then on my way out, just kind of like throw a torch at one of these things and set fire to that, and then kind of circle back and set light to the last one, and then just like jump off a cliff to get away from them. And it kind of felt like thematically appropriate.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think the game is just worse when you're underleveled and you're in combat. And I do think the combat still kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Honest. Like,
that's why I've gone all assassination, and it's, I've actually been able to avoid combat pretty much entirely, except for like the early, I feel like the first few hours where you're very much on the plot's rails and you have to do, the plots thing. There's like, so, they make you do a big battle, right? For conquering the region to show you how that works. You assassinate the leader, then you do the big battlefield fight. And that was actually really fucking a slog for me. And since then, I don't think I've ever really had to take on someone in direct combat. Maybe like once or twice, but only like one guy, and I've now got this, there's an ability in the Assassin's Tree that's, it's like a mini assassination attack where,
I got the same
you can
one.
do that even if you're in combat. And with that and all the other stealth skills I've got, I rarely actually have to engage with the combat system, which is nice.
yeah, because it's not amazing. Like, we've gone over like why the kick's really fun because it's dynamic and it interacts with the environment, lets you shortcut things in exciting ways. But the moment to moment combat stuff is, I still think, quite weak.
I don't think it's terrible. Like, I think it takes some getting used to, because like things like the timing for dodges and parries is like very different to Dark Souls. I think that's the main thing. Is it's like you have to preload your dodges and parries a lot more substantially.
Yeah, it's not my problem with it. Like I dodge everything. I dodge everything.
The Artful Dodger.
The Artful Dodger. No, I've got the dodging like bang on. Like I can activate slow-mo with every dodge now in the game. The problem I have with it is simply just the satisfaction of hits. And like it feels like you're sort of like slashing. It doesn't feel like you're hitting a thing. Like it's always just your moveset is kind of going into this polygonal object, and
maybe that's
fair. Terribly reacting to it.
Do you guys use the targeting system?
Yes.
Do you lock on?
Yes.
Yep, unless it's a giant ball.
Okay.
In which case, unlock.
I've not really been locking on.
You gotta log on and dodge.
In the except in the giant boar fight, because I actually did, I don't like the equipment system where everything's just like 5% boost to this, 2% boost to that. it creates no interesting decisions for me because I just want the assassination damage as high as possible, so I only ever pick that, no regard to anything else. But for the boar fight, I specifically wanted to do it because I wanted to see if there was like a romance option with the lady who gives you the quest to do that. And so I thought, fuck it, for this, I will respec myself just for this fight. So I took off all my assassin gear and put on all my best warrior gear because I had a shitload of just stuff carrying on with me. And I also respec my skills because it's really cheap to do that. You can pay like just a few hundred, drachmae and, just respec everything. So I was able to just respec straight into warrior. And it's kind of cool how like, I just went through stats and I didn't pay attention to what I was putting on. I just went, okay, good warrior damage, good warrior damage, good warrior damage. And then looked at myself and like, shit, I actually look really fearsome now. And fought the boar. And then, so it was like my first time engaging the combat system in a long time. And I've got the sort of overpower attack where it takes 3 adrenaline things.
Yeah, it's really good.
And it's different for every weapon type.
Don't think you do it on animals though.
I was using a spear, that, I hadn't used a spear in a long time. And I'd never used a spear with the overpower attack. And the overpower attack for the spear goes on for like 45 seconds. It's like 6 sort of jabs and then a twirl and then another double twirl.
It's like full Star Wars kids.
And
Just
yeah, if you're not locked on, by the end of that, they're long gone. They're in another part of the map now. You're still just swiping out the thing. So yeah, locking on might be worth doing.
Yeah, I'm having luck with the sword, especially with overpower. The overpower move of the sword is really, really strong. And actually, with going down the warrior tree and building warrior, I can confidently take on enemies 2 levels above me now.
All right.
But that's only because like you get a sudden sort of power surge when your adrenaline bar grows.
yeah.
And that changes the game quite a lot actually, like in terms of like the combat stuff. And also the game changes a lot, you know, as that happens. Once it opens up past its sort of like 8-hour, 10-hour tutorial-ish section, suddenly you can access a lot of areas at the same level. And this is one of the things that I think honestly mitigates the speed at the XP boost past that point, is that you can go a lot of places in the world at level like 14. Loads of places around the coast are designed for you to just go there. So you can actually just frivolously go around and just do whatever you want to do and just casually level up. It just feels like that drive, the initial drive before you get to that point to do all the necessary plot stuff and, you know, set up all the rest of the story. That really locks you into quite a punishing XP curve, and you don't have the tools, the combat tools to actually, you know, negotiate the level disparity.
I didn't find that, but I suspect that's because I did everything in every environment before moving on to the next one.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much though.
So, yeah.
So I was at this preview event, which I mentioned last week, and they were having to go around telling people how to get leveled up enough to do that final regional fight in that zone. Like they're having to go, and it wasn't do some side quests. It was like, oh, just go and hunt these mercenaries, and they'd take you to a mercenary and kill the mercenary. And then, oh, you still don't have enough. Okay, so go after this one instead. And it was the fact that they were having to manage people through that, like people who are very experienced with games. That just felt like there's a mathematical curve that's wrong here.
Yeah.
That battlefield fight was a low point for me, and because of that, I've never done one since. Like I've assassinated the leader of region and then I just leave it. Just like, I don't know if that'll change, but probably won't, but I'm not willing to do the battlefield fight. I don't care enough about who wins.
Yeah, and also like if you haven't spec'd for warrior tree, you're fucked, because they're purely about just running around and doing DPS stuff.
Yeah.
Just, you know, as much damage as possible. You're literally on a timer. Like there are 2 health bars for each army draining down. You have to kill more captains than the other people can kill warriors, basically. And that's pure warrior tree spec for warrior damage. Do, you know, hand-to-hand fights, strip people's shields, and kill them in combat.
You probably do it with the hunter tree as well, because you can just shoot people in the head.
I think the hunter tree sucks. I think it's terrible.
Some of the stuff's really good. Like,
Has anyone got
charged bow shot is quite good, because you can get 1-shots to heads, which are basically 1-shot ranged assassinations.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that the predator shot, or
it's
the one where you guide it?
Not the one where you guide it. The one where you just activate. It costs adrenaline, but it basically like means your next arrow does like lots more damage. Like assassinations.
I haven't got that one. I've just unlocked death arrows though.
Oh, the best ones.
Yeah, those seem good.
Screw these soft arrows.
Why was I not using these earlier?
Yeah. I think like,
but it is like, so someone gives you some, and then after that you can craft them, and it's like, oh, before I hadn't thought about making a death arrow.
Wow.
Yeah. I find that like, I agree with you. I think the combat lacks a certain sense of impact. However, I've kind of liked, as soon as I understood like there's an upgrade in the warrior tree that rewards you for doing a combo that involves both light and heavy attacks.
Yes.
And so once you got that, that's quite important because it adds quite a lot to your damage.
Yeah.
And I use either the staff or the double-bladed axe most of the time. And both of those weapons have like quite potent control effects on the final parts of combos. So like you can chain into a really fast sweep with the axe that knocks people over. And it's actually normally you spend adrenaline to knock people over.
Yeah.
And that for me, because I agree with you, with the sword or the daggers, you are totally just carving up a loaf. Like you are reducing the health bar to 0. Whereas with the heavier weapons, I quite like them because you do have this sense that like, if you can fit in the quick combo before your opponent's attack, you'll do like an AoE sweep that like knocks everybody over. And like that feels like, I think at that point you're having a system step in for things that maybe the whole system should be doing well, but that gives you a sense of impact because like, I become this lady with a huge halberd basically that just swings it around her head and knocks people over. And
I think my experience is it's a very wet kind of chipping down a health bar thing.
Right.
And it's about doing incremental. So.
Do you know what's very wet, Tom? The sea.
Yeah, that's very true. But you slash someone across the throat with a legendary, Spartan blade and you've done, 10% of the health bar is chipped off. And the game really suffers from that. And I feel like it's crying out for like a ground execution move or options that let you, once you've actually achieved a knockdown or something, that let you just punish them because you're a fucking assassin and you should be able to just execute people instead of chipping people down.
Have you got the assassination move that Tom was talking about, the one that allows you to assassinate in combat?
No.
Hero Strike.
That's like, cause
it sounds bad because they don't tell you the main feature of it, which is you can use it in combat.
Yeah.
Like even the video they show you to show the skill is someone sneaking up on somebody and using it, and it does 60% of assassination damage. So it's like, why would I want a move that costs adrenaline, does less damage than my normal assassinate, and that I have to use in stealth mode? But you don't. You can just use it in combat.
It's also a guaranteed knockdown and an AoE if you don't target it.
Right.
And it one-shots most animals, which is really interesting. It's the key to the boar fight for me, because if you angle it right, it kills every single boar at the same time.
Well,
so it's on quite a long cooldown, but that has been a big pace increaser.
I used fire. The magic ability to set your sword on fire and then hit boars and then they're on fire very quickly.
Yeah, I did a bit of both. It's worth saying, a thing I didn't know for a long time is a lot of these skills, after you get the first level of them, the second level of them is something totally different. You just can, there's one that was like paralysis arrows. I didn't go for that, cause if I want to knock someone out, I can get up close to them and do that. And then it turns out like fire arrows is the next level of that, and poison arrows is the third level of that. And there's a bunch of skills like that where until you get the first level, there's no way to know what levels 2 and 3 are, and they're just totally different things.
In fact, we're talking about dodgy writing, like some of the worst writing is in just the descriptive text about abilities and stuff.
That Hero Strike one is, I think that's like a Hall of Fame worst presentation of a skill, because it doesn't tell you the key feature, which is that you can use it in combat, and it says, unleash the full power of the Spear of Leonidas, does 60% assassination damage. Come on, did you not see that?
Right.
Unleash 60% of the power of the Spear of Leonidas, does 100% assassination damage. It's all over the place, but that ability is really, like, I found, because I've got like 2 points in Hunter, vast majority of my points in Warrior, and about 5 to 10 points in Assassin, and no, not that many, 5 to 6, but it's enough that like my assassinations are quite powerful, and like that, that in combat assassination with the right gear is like between a third to a half of a elite enemy's health bar, even without which is quite helpful because it means that it helps the whittling stuff feel less onerous, because if I whittle to a third, that's a one-shot kill. Yeah. And so it's sort of like,
but this is a classic example of an upgrade tree mitigating the irritation of core combat system
you're right.
They've created. And I'd love to see a combat system that's built around disabling enemies and then executing them like an assassin. But maybe that's not what Cassandra would do anyway, but yeah, whatever.
I like it when you hit the people with the shield, Tom. And it was you who told me about that in the
That is
place.
a very good skill, isn't it?
I got that one, even though I'm not really a warrior, but it's just very fun to do.
Yeah, really fun.
It's like, it's always disappointing when you fight, like, it's just, dual wielding poison sword men. Like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Like, what of yours can I stab and steal and hit you with? Like,
so you have an ability where you just grab one of the swords and slap them with it and throw it away.
It's just a very fuck you move, isn't it? Yeah. It's just a very much like, oh, nice toy you've got there.
Actually,
off it goes.
It reminded me how much I love a lot about the combat, and this reminds me how much I love Arkham Asylum's combat. And, in particular, anyone who has a weapon in Arkham Asylum is in so much trouble with Batman. Because, like, if they have, like, a gun, you just, like, bend it in half. If they have a shield, you can, like, punch through the window in the shield and then like pick it up and whack them over the head with it. Like anything, you'll not only take their weapon and hit them with it, you'll also break the weapon in the process.
Yeah. Hope you didn't like this crap. Yeah, it's good. But yeah, no, I'm still really digging it. For all its flaws, there's something about it's more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. I mean, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I've had a few frustrations. There's like, there was at least one story mission where you're supposed to assassinate someone, and because they're a plot character, even though they're facing the wall when you come in, they just instantly detect you. Even though,
I think I know the one you mean.
Yeah, and that was bullshit. That was one of the few forced fights I had to engage with the combat system there, and it was annoying. And a couple of things like that. So one thing I have struggled with in Odyssey is missions where you're not allowed to kill anyone, or that's not actually the rule, but they say do this and don't be seen. So one of them was like doctor a voting ballot, and obviously don't be seen, because if you get seen doing that, like it's going to invalidate the whole thing. And I don't think that's my interpretation of that was like, don't kill anyone, just leave all guards exactly where they are and get the mission done without them knowing you were ever there. And I was just not able to do that. I just couldn't see it. Like I'm wrong about this, but I thought there was only one entrance to the place, and there's just 2 guards, I'm right about this, who just watch that forever. They never move.
They're actually quite good at being guards for that reason.
Yeah. They're doing what so few guards do. And I'm really bad in stealth situations of like finding what all the options are. If I can't take people out, I don't do a good job of scouting, so I don't find out about, it turns out there's another entrance I didn't see. But to me, it just seemed like this just can't be done. And I think what they want you to do is just kill the people and hide them really well so that nobody knows they died. And I wasn't willing. I thought like, I could do that, but I want to engage with the fiction of this at least. And so I was trying not to kill anybody and trying not to, even knock anyone out. And then I realized, actually, if you knock someone out, you can then hire them. And so I just hired everybody in the place, just like, except for, it was actually those 2 guards I ended up not, getting, because they were right next to each other. I didn't have a good way of non-lethally taking out 2 people at once, but everybody else patrolled. And so I just knocked every single person out and hired them from my crew. Just like, I can offer you a new job. Cause I think after that, like, it'll be weird that everybody found new jobs after this, but it won't necessarily be a crime. And those 2, I was able to step by them, and there's another entrance, and I got in and did the register, and that was the only way I could figure out that the fiction would make sense. Yeah. Like, if like 8 out of the 10 guards posted to guard this all got new jobs suddenly, it's really suspicious, but it's not necessarily voter fraud.
It's just a roaming HR person. It happens. Like it's.
But I generally started to wonder, like, do we have enough jobs for these people? Am I luring them with a false promise of a job?
Yeah, we're expanding too quickly. This is startup pirate crew. I'm talking about the world state being relatively and pleasingly consistent. There's a mission on the first island where you're told to like steal this particular object that you will later shove up a goat's ass, and don't be seen doing it. But I had already found the place you go to do that and killed every single person in it. And the game respected that. So I went there and it's like, yeah, but Cassandra still says like, I should not be seen while I'm here. And there was like one person left, and it was like one of like the slaves or something, or the household servants, who was just running around in a panic. And that was the only person I had to avoid.
I'm still upset about this, to be honest.
Yeah, the corpses were still on the ground. It was like everyone else was dead. And then got back and the dialogue was like, you didn't get seen. Fantastic. It's like, well, there's some mitigating circumstances. It's because I pre-murdered everybody. But that is one way of staying ahead of the XP. Anyway. Should we do some questions?
Yeah.
And because people are definitely not sick of us talking about Assassin's Creed, I thought it'd be good if the first question we did was about Assassin's Creed. It's actually not really, because George wrote in to ask a question kind of about Assassin's Creed, but I'm not going to read the full question because he does include some spoilers for the game, which we've already avoided, so I don't really want to go back to it. Mm-hmm. But the point of the question is this. He's basically discussing the fact that the game does include themes that are pretty richly presented in Greek tragedy, as you might expect, to do with stabbing people, as you also might expect. He writes, having been thinking about theatre, are there any examples of video games employing dramatic irony? Is there a way of giving the player knowledge of that the avatar they control is ignorant of? Sorry for writing a whole play to get to that short question. Thanks for all the good pods. So I kind of wanted to make a point that dramatic irony in a video game is more traditionally called ludonarrative dissonance. Like,
oh no, we've got to drink this
shit.
delicious
Sorry.
cognac.
Sorry. And this is kind of an interesting point because, like, you know, I think, I don't think you can do dramatic irony in a game very easily because the purpose of dramatic irony in a dramatic sense is to create the drama and the tension of watching somebody make an error.
Yeah.
You have to be not them for that to work or else it is not dramatic irony.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, like, it's really difficult. Like, you can have ironic situations, I think, or you can have, but even then they're not very satisfying from a game point of view. But I feel like, this is, it's actually interesting that this is so difficult to achieve in a video game because it relies very heavily on, like, Greek drama has a drama, has a dages abruptly this issue. But it has, the audience plays a specific role in some ways in those plays. And, they are addressed directly by the chorus and, they are kind of like there to sometimes maybe to even pass judgment or bear witness to an act. They're very unlike video game players in a lot of very important ways in terms of how passive you are. So I just think it's kind of interesting that that's a sort of a mode that games struggle to adopt.
There was an interesting case that came up in, on Video Games Hot Dog recently, where Jim Crawford had been playing Prey a lot, and he was talking about there's some special content that you kind of get if you kill everybody in Prey.
Right.
Like if you just murder every human you ever see, including the friendly ones. And Zach was saying, well, why would anyone ever do that? And I immediately thought, well, I'm not confused about that. I know immersive sim players. There's some people who will never be seen by anybody ever, if that's humanly possible. And there's some people who will kill everybody ever, if that's humanly possible. And there's some people who will never kill anybody, if that's humanly possible. And, there are just players who will do that. And I also think that eventually, without spoiling any specifics, Prey kind of gives a reason why that might be the way that somebody plays the game.
Right. Yeah.
But obviously the player, who does that probably wouldn't know that when they start the game. And so there is this weird like player mindset and fictional mindset accidentally lining up. Like there's a player who might do this because they're a player and they're an asshole and like players just want to know the limits and they want to try things and like, is it possible to kill everyone? I'll try and kill everyone. They'll do it for their own reasons. And then there can also be a fictional reason and they're not at all the same, but they lead to the same course of action.
Maybe this is like the Greek tragedy of like Protagonistus, the extreme, who's bound by the gods to just produce a single pattern of behavior over and over again and over again. Like I must collect every melon.
Yeah.
And this has driven me to kill everybody in the world. That's maybe a form of dramatic irony that games can do, but again, not
it's
quite
pretty different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it is because it's also dumb, the thing I said. I'm trying to think if there's an example of, because there are plenty of games that ask you to make a decision where it's bad for the character, but it's sort of like you're all caught up in the moment, and that doesn't quite work because
definitely on your second time through is very, very common for games that like the whole thing you're working towards at the end of the game turns out to be invalid or the wrong thing to do. And then when you're replaying it, it's this weird case of like, I'm playing this to play the game, but I know I shouldn't be doing this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you have a very different relationship with fate in the game. Like, fate is so central to dramatic irony in some ways because it's one of the ways that sort of is framed as a kind of like, this character is on this course and there's no changing it, and maybe they think they can change it, but they can't, and that. Simply the awareness of fate might be the source of dramatic irony in some cases, and that is again, that happens in video games, but it's in the course of like the knowledge that it doesn't matter what I do.
Though.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
So
it's annoying. Like,
it's because so my character isn't a moron, even though I'm inhabiting their body and moving them around this space, and they still have to stumble into this. And instead of that being, some sort of, harrowing, oh God, why didn't you just do something different? It's like, well, I could have done something different. I'm in control of this person. So, that just becomes a frustration instead of a feeling of, a morose feeling of despair.
To bring this back to Assassin's Creed, it was a little bit much to be lectured by Socrates on, the nature of choice for a mandatory quest. It's like a quest you have to do, involves doing something wrong, and then Socrates is like, but you had a choice not to do this. I'm like, no, I fucking didn't. Actually.
I never would have got to meet you in this cutscene, Socrates. Like, also the fact that you have dialogue choices that don't really change much in your conversation with Socrates about how choice doesn't, yeah, there's some irony there, but it's not,
it's not direct.
It's not a good guide.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, you're right. That it doesn't work. Video games. It's what it just doesn't.
Next question comes from Kingsley, who writes, "Hi CNC, returning to the question of other types of writing in games, I just thought I'd raise Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy as an example of video game as essay. This might be the only game in that genre, certainly the only one I can think of. This isn't really a question, but I thought the original question deserved a slightly less hot take than tutorials equal poetry." Cheers, Kingsley.
Hey.
There were a few whiskeys in, I think, at that point.
I saw this mentioned in the CNC Discord actually as a possible answer to that question and thought, yes, that's correct. We should have thought of that. It's a non-fiction game with good writing in it.
Yep. And we didn't think of it. So there you go. Yep. But we did bang on about.
Look, I feel like we got to a valuable place.
Well, like, it was like, I think it was a raw take. And it took us all on a journey.
Let's not concern ourselves with the temperature of the take.
Yeah. Indeed. Yes. The next question also concerns that take, however. And it comes, from someone whose name is If Coltrans G. Dear Hacks and Handax, last pod you all decided that tutorial text was not quite the same as poetry. No game exemplifies this better than War of the Willows, a text game written entirely in verse, about fighting your tree ancestors. It is 100% poetry, 0% tutorial, and is consequently very hard to understand. That's not even the only obstacle to playing it. You have to compile its source code yourself using Python 2. A side effect of this was that I could read its source code to figure out how to win because it was written in easy-to-grok Python. While I could ask Tom about the poetry inherent in game code, my real question is this. What's the most a game can ask you to do on the promise of an interesting mechanic?
That's a good question.
Not a lot. Go on, sorry.
I can't answer the question they did ask, but I can answer the question they refused to ask, which is about code and poetry.
Okay.
Because years ago I covered somebody who was writing code that was in rhyming verse. So it was valid code that would compile and would actually like run something, but the code itself rhymed and also was like, I think they did several versions. I think one of them was a sonnet. So the code was like a valid sonnet. But yeah, just like the line endings rhyming with the next ending of the next line, which is impressive.
That is impressive. Sonic the Hedgehog. No, that's not, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. Why did I say it?
I love the phrase valid sonnet.
Exactly.
But, it's the cellar door, scene in, so I collect these little 2-word phrases that, are amusing, from that scene from Donnie Darko where, two most beautiful words in the English language are cellar door. And she, Drew Barrymore stands there in front of this blackboard that has cellar doors written on it. And, my Twitter career, I've several times just substituted cellar door for various absurd 2-word phrases. The latest one was overflow cloaca from Final Fantasy 12, which was a description of a sewer. Anyway, so thank you, Tom, for that latest entry.
Valid sonnet.
There's a line.
Yeah. Valid sonnet sounds like a Metal Gear character.
What a boss. What a boss fight.
There's a line from a movie, and I can't remember what the movie is, but I'm pretty sure Rhys Ifans says it. He's, I believe, quoting Dylan Thomas, but I don't know for sure, saying, and I can't remember what town he's talking about, it's probably Cardiff, saying that it was described as a beautiful, terrible town, and whoever he's talking to says, well, I always call it a pretty shitty city. And then he says, at least mine rhymes.
That's very good. What was the question? I have that answer. It was, what's the most a game can ask you to do on the premise of an interesting mechanic?
Like the least amount of investment possible on the player's part.
Spend some money.
Some reward on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if you spend money, then you've got some automatic kind of, that buys you some time, developers.
I've become very impatient with like simply getting things working fiddliness. I know this makes me a less qualified PC gamer, but I don't care to do it.
Yeah.
I would like things to work.
It's like one of my resolutions this year is just give up more. Like when I'm trying to get something working, just give up.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, and it's a shame because there are experiences that should work well and don't. But I encounter this quite a lot writing They're Back for PC Gamer, where there are things that like Arcs Fatalis, game I like, interesting game. I've wanted to write about it for a while. It just don't really want to work on Windows 10 for me at all. I tried quite hard, but not a lot because there are other things I could write about.
Yeah.
Maybe that's more reflection on me than on the game, but yeah, I will, that's the answer is I will not try very hard. I will Google once. And if the instructions are relatively simple, fine.
Oh, yeah, with technical stuff, like there's a shitload of stuff that works great first time, and then there's a shitload more stuff that works with just like one fix. Like, it doesn't quite work, but if I just do this, it works. If it doesn't work after the one fix, there's a very good chance it's going to take 25 fixes. It's going to be just this rabbit hole that you never get out of.
If something passes into this could be a couple of different things sphere, I'm out.
Yeah.
like Fulton balloon me out of there, I'm gone. Like,
and it's also like a lot of people who have the technical mindset also, are bad at the mindset of like stepping back and evaluating how much trouble is this really worth? How much trouble I've already sunk? How much trouble is it likely to be? Cause we have this sense of like, this should work. I should be able to. I had a situation where it was just like a laptop and a TV, and I just wanted the picture from the laptop to be on the TV.
Surprisingly hard.
And, it just wasn't working. And, my first fix didn't work. And I ended up doing like 8 different things that I tried, and none of them worked. And it was only after like thing number 9 that I realized I can just watch this on the fucking laptop. Like, it's a smaller screen, but it's closer to me. It's not that different. Why didn't I just give up? Like, it was just because it should work. I have an HDMI cable. This should work. This is supposed to output to that thing. Why doesn't it?
There's some sort of like AV kind of impulse that people have. It's like, this should incorporate itself into a perfect AV setup that I will maintain. But that is like a distant dream. Like, no one ever successfully maintains like a perfect AV setup with lots of different switches for any given amount of time. But everyone dreams of it, I think. It's one of those universal fantasies. Is it? No.
This also goes if you ever have like imperfect internet. If you have like dodgy Wi-Fi or like intermittent 3G or whatever, and you're trying to like download something or make something work, just give up. Just don't do it. Like, your life is just better if you just assume this is impossible.
Yeah.
Act as if you have no internet. If you think you have internet and you only have partial internet, your life is hell for that entire time. There will be no pleasure had. It will be 100% torment. If you think you have no internet, you're just like, oh well, I don't have internet. I'll do this later.
That's maybe the wisest thing ever said in this podcast.
This is the new best Tom Francis moment of 2018.
This is good though, because we don't have to actually argue with this in order to save 3 years of each of our lives. Our next question comes from Pete, who writes directly into my wheelhouse with this question. He writes, I picked up Destiny 2 when it initially released and had a grand time playing it, even though I had zero exposure to Destiny previously. The storytelling does an amazing job of introducing characters to me and giving me a reason to care for them. It also does a really good job of explaining the world in such a way that while I don't necessarily understand everyone's backstory, I have a good idea, or at least I think I do, of why people are where they are and what they are doing. I've also been enjoying the latest expansion for Destiny 2. However, unlike the original release, I now feel completely lost when it comes to the lore of who these people are, Aldrin, Petra, and the Queen, and what's going on, especially the entire plot around the death of Cade 6. That's not a spoiler, because that's in every trailer for the game. And why the hell the Prison of Elders even exists. So to my question, would you possibly be interested in doing a one-off podcast or longer series if there's reason to give people who have never played Destiny before Destiny 2 a primer on just what the hell is going on? If not, do you know of any good resources for reading up on the backstory of the game? Thanks, Pete. So when I read this out in the break, Tom, you said, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could talk for 2 to 10,000 hours about Destiny lore.
Yeah, me too. So, I mean, I was thinking, I kind of do want to do this. I don't know when we would do this. And we may have, like, missed the topicality window on some of this. But, there is, I did write a bunch of lore articles, about Destiny for PC Gamer. So maybe I could maybe some of them might help. There's also a bunch of good YouTubers that do Destiny lore stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, I did write a primer to Destiny 2 for PC players before we knew what the story to Destiny 2 was going to be.
Yes.
So that might have, I'll check it. If that's going to be useful to someone, because a lot of the stuff that Pete refers to is stuff that's pretty prominent in Destiny 1, and Forsaken's very much a sequel to that stuff.
Yeah, and those guys were tricky because Destiny 1 wasn't not released on PC. So,
Yeah.
And so much that grounding and just how the universe works in terms of what the ghosts are, what the Traveler is, and, what relationship those entities have to humanity are not terribly well expressed necessarily in Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Because, they strip all that away and build you back up without actually explaining what those powers mean and where they've come from and why that might be problematic or interesting or complicated. But there is legit interesting stuff in Destiny lore. We'd have to, I think it would be a good candidate for a breakout podcast because it would have to go back into Destiny 1, back into console world.
I think my wariness about that is I simply don't know how I would structure it.
Oh yeah,
because
there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
I do like it a lot though. I need to get up to speed on some things because there's a lot of new lore as well.
Yeah, we need to raid as well.
Yeah, we do need to raid. That's unrelated to this podcast,
Yes.
but we do need to do the raid because it looks great.
It looks really fucking cool.
Our final question comes from Aidan. It also concerns poetry because we're never getting away from that one.
Apparently.
Aidan writes, did any of you play Starseed Pilgrim? It had a very hands-off tutorial and required you to experiment and explore to determine both what you could do but also your goal within the game. The only help given was a tutorial poem. Gained from loss, wonders not measure, but starseed hearts yield starseed treasure. This made me wonder whether you could use your unique mix of game knowledge and English literature training to make new tutorials based on famous poems. For example, maybe the new Sonic game has a This Be the Tutorial poem. Man hands on misery to man, it deepens like a coastal shelf. Get out quickly as you can and don't lose any rings yourself. Or, I met a traveller from an antique land who said, press X to jump o'er grass and stone, and near it half sunk a secret passage lies, and door whose lock is hid and opens when you die. Etc., etc. Kind regards, Aidan. Those are very good.
Yeah.
The challenge posed by this question is
Too hard for us.
it's too hard. It's too difficult. And we gestured drunkenly at this last week, so what more do you want, you monsters? But I mostly just wanted to read those good.
They're very good.
Yeah.
Thoughts.
Enjoyed
I have
those a lot.
played Starseed Pilgrim. It's
Yeah.
good.
Which one is that?
It's the one, it's by Drocken, who has done many games, of which, the two I can think of are, Midas, where everything you touch turns to gold, like a platformer, and another one where, like, you have to hold your breath underwater. You have to physically, in real life, hold your breath when you're underwater in the game, and it's just like a trust system, like it just asks you to do that. Right. He has a million, great ideas. And Starseed Pilgrim is the one where, it's almost Tetris-looking blocks, and when you plant a seed, it will sort of grow pink blocks, and pink blocks will grow in a certain pattern, and they'll keep building up, and you're trying to sort of step on them and then plant new things on top of that structure to get to a certain point. And then I can't remember exactly what triggers this, but at some point the whole world kind of inverts, and all of the solid space becomes empty space, and all the empty space becomes solid space. And so now, like, the structure you built is the shape of the level that you're in, and you're trying to get back to, like, a key. And because I didn't know I was building the level I was going to be playing, it wasn't a good level. And I failed. I remember finding it very difficult to progress beyond that. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting, abstract, game. There's like a whole website that's still regularly updated, I think, that's just dedicated to exploring that game and just talking about it, and just articles about Starseed Pilgrim. And yeah, it's a real phenomenon.
The best laid Tetris block levels of some men at Ganaglay. There you go. Good. That is all of the questions we have time for. If you would like to send us a question for each episode of the podcast, you can email us at questions@crateandcrowbar.com. You can tweet us at crateandcrowbar. And as ever, thank you to our Patreon backers for supporting the podcast and its spin-offs. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, you can find out more at patreon.com/crateandcrowbar. And as ever, you can find our community on our excellent Discord channel, the link for which is on our website at crateandcrowbar.com. We should now do our Twitter thing. That is true. Yes. My Twitter thing. It's C. Thurston. CTHURSTEN.
I, Tom Senior, am at PCG Ludo. I don't really tweet very much anymore, but
Neither do I.
I'm there. I'm there. Whatever. If you want to say hello there. It's cool.
I still tweet all the fucking time, especially about Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I'm at Pentadact, PENTADACT.
Tom, I very much enjoyed your prison gif.
Oh, I was at myself.
Good. Thanks for listening, everybody. Almost left you hanging, but didn't.